Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss. I'm here with the Hustler. Hustler, say hello.
What up, everybody? Let's get this going. Fantasy season is
So,
among us.
big news today. Oh my God, my Twitter was blowing up, Hustler. Julio Jones, 32 years old, signs with the Buccaneers. Wow, I'm shocked. Him and Tom Brady are like this. 1-year contract. Thoughts?
I'm not a big fan. I mean, Julio looked like a shell of himself last year. This is a whole lot of nothing, but doesn't look good for Russell Gage because everyone was talking, getting on the Russell Gage hype, and then now they're bringing over Julio, and then something else that I know that you wanted to bring up.
Well, Scotty Miller, too. I feel bad for Scotty Miller, too. He's solid, too. I love Scotty Miller. You know, the big news, I think, at Tampa is Godwin has did his physical. He's ready to rock and roll. He'll be in practice. He's not going to skip a beat. He's the number one. He's the number 2 receiver. Evans is 1. Godwin's 2. I would say Gage is like 3. Even though Julio Jones is there, it's kind of having that 4th outfielder in baseball. Now you got it with Julio Jones. You got somebody to take away some catches and receiving. But I don't think Julio Jones still won't be drafted. If he does, it's 12th, 13th round, right?
Yeah, he's going to be at the end. I mean, he's going to be one of those dart throws, and who knows if he even makes it all the way through camp. You know, I mean, this is why we tell everyone do not draft before week 3 of the preseason because you don't know how things are going to shape out. All these guys are not going to make the team.
Yeah, I mean, Godwin now, his stock's up. I know in drafts that have been going on, they've been worried about his health, but 100%, he's ready to rock and roll. Godwin now, 6th, 7th round for sure. Julio Jones, as I said, he might not even be drafted in a lot of leagues. And we'll talk about Evans coming up. Today we're talking about wide receivers. Before we do, the NFL news, Kyler Murray, big contract, 5 years, $230 million. I love everybody's making fun of the clause about the 4 hours a week he has to do film study. It sounds like he's like a little kid and his mom sends him to his room. You got to study for an hour before you get paid. I feel it's like the same thing. I mean, if they pay me that kind of money and that's in the contract, I'll be happy to look at film. But obviously there's a problem there that he doesn't take film studies seriously. They threw it in the contract and somehow got leaked through the Arizona, press or whatever. But now it's like people are like, why is this in his contract? What are your thoughts?
Well, if you wonder why some games he looked like he was on point and some games he looked like shit, there you go. It's because he was probably pissed at what was going on and probably wasn't watching a bunch of film. So yeah, that's a good clause. And I'm sure that he'll watch more than 4 hours worth of film in the week if he's actually happy to be in the building. And he's got 240 reasons to be happy now.
Yeah, I'd be happy to watch it. For me, I would put that in the contract. Fine with me. I don't care. And he should be watching film, but just how he became public, I think it was a bad move on the Cardinal part. Another surprise move. Oh my Twitter blew up again. Trey Lance Shanahan said it's his team to lose. It's his team. So no surprise here, Hustler. Thoughts?
I'm still, until Jimmy G gets moved out of town, I still think that this is all coach speak, and we'll see when Jimmy gets out of town. But Jimmy is a better thrower than Trey Lance, so when it comes to practice, Jimmy is going to look better in practice. So I just don't believe it. Once he's gone, once he's out of there, I'll move over to Trey Lance. What up, Antonio?
Let me tell you about Trey Lance. No experience, hasn't played that many games, including college. You know I'm right. He played against the Cardinals. He looked horrible. They lost like 17-10, if my memory's correct. Way overhyped. I mean, this kid, great skills, unbelievable. Went to a very small school, as we discussed. But, he's not a top 10 quarterback. And I think with him starting, I think Samuel's fine. He'll stay where he's at in the draft. I think Kittle's stock goes down. And I also believe Ayuk's stock goes down. So, I think the only one that kind of stays even is Samuel. But what are your thoughts of, people are jumping this guy's bandwagon and they're taking him like top 10. Would you?
No, I've got him ranked in the 20s, and I'm just taking the stance against Lance. I'm not on the Lance stance. And it's because we haven't seen it. I'm just not buying into the hype just because they gave up the house for him and the 3 first rounders and whatever the hell else they gave up doesn't mean that it's going to turn into a success in the NFL. and I'm still I'll believe it when I see it.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't want to disagree with you. I probably would not even draft him. There's guys I'd rather have Matt Ryan. I'd rather have Wentz. I mean, there's guys I'd rather have than him as my second string quarterback. So I want people to take him. So if you're not in my league, don't take him. If you're in my league, take him, please. Big news. I mean, this is kind of weird. I mean, I've been around sports a long time, and Belichick, the coach for New England, he's been coaching since the 70s, so he knows what he's doing. And he's coached like every position, like fullback, linebacker, and he's done everything. He did not, after his offensive coordinator went to the Raiders and after his defensive coordinator left to go someplace else, he did not name any coordinators. Like
right.
he's doing it like himself, or he's having like it's the weirdest thing. And he's an older guy. It's not like a young guy who can do everything. Does that affect fantasy at all? I mean, I know New England's not really the greatest fantasy team to have players from, but do you look at New England different now without having any coordinators on the team?
No, because it seems like everything's been run the Belichick way for a while. Like he makes sure to get people in there who runs like everything that he's trying to do. You know, I mean, the run game, the ground and pound. I mean, just like when it comes to his players, he gets guys who can do a lot of different things. I mean, he's going to put someone in those positions who can do a lot of things, and it's not going to be him. But yeah, it is weird that no one's been named the coordinator yet.
I mean, I was thinking like if you don't name a coordinator and you have some other guy do it, maybe they save all this money. Maybe it's like a money thing. You don't have to pay him a coordinator salary. Oh no, you're not the coordinator. You're the assistant to the coordinator. So you're not. You know. So I mean, basically, is it a way to save money? I mean, Kraft is not a cheap guy. That's the thing. But it's just a strange. Why wouldn't you reward some assistant to become the coordinator? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it
makes
no any sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense, and unless he's taking on like he's going to do their job, so he's getting those contracts, But I doubt that that's happening. So yeah, it just doesn't really make any sense.
So I have a quiz question for you, and
I
heard it earlier, and I was kind of like blown away, like what the answer was. So with Adams leaving Green Bay, Hill leaving to Miami, now we have like what quarterback / wide receiver tight end have the best production right now in the NFL as a combination. It can be, what quarterback, it could be a wide receiver or tight end. Give you a little clue, but I know the top three. What's your who do you think is the number one combination right now? Quarterback, wide receiver, go.
It's got to be Mahomes and Kelsey.
That's number 3.
Okay. And I guess I didn't understand the question. I'm not.
It's a weird question. It's production, touchdowns, yards, all together. What combination of quarterback? It can be a receiver or tight end.
Is it their whole lifespan, like the most yards and like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's like the whole lifespan playing together. Yes.
Okay.
And one guy. Okay, so number 3 is Kelsey Mahomes. You good there? That was my guess too.
Let me take a real guess because I didn't understand what you were talking about.
Okay, that's fine. Go, hustler.
Okay, let's see.
You're not gonna get it. So you may get number 2, but you're not gonna get number 1. There's no way.
I'm going Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen.
That's number 2.
Okay.
I am impressed. Number 1, are you ready? Drum roll.
Hold on.
Rogers Cobb.
Okay.
You would never get that.
No, I wouldn't have got that.
No. But I mean, it's pretty amazing because everybody's moving around and no one's staying at the same place. It was Adams. It was, it was Dante. It was Adams and Rogers, but until they moved. And but it's pretty amazing that Cobb, who's still in Green Bay, he's not being drafted. But again, I love that quiz question. I thought that was a kind of a tricky one, and you can fool your friends with that. So don't be afraid to take that quiz question. It's all yours. You can do what you want with it. So let's talk wide receivers. We talked about Godwin being healthy, but we're going to talk about fantasy receivers, and we're going to do a top 10 list. We're going to talk about sleepers, and we're going to talk about receivers. With me, I'm not going to touch, not because they're not going to have a good season, just because they're rated their draft is the ADR is too high. So that's how I'm doing. Like, do not touch these guys because you're drafting them way too high. And I just think they're going to have a more average year compared to a good year. So who's your number 1 receiver this year? Go.
Cooper Kupp, I don't care if everyone thinks he's going to regress. He could still regress and be the number 1 wide receiver in the league.
So Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown winner. And you're saying, what the hell is a Triple Crown in Bay football? Receiving yards, touchdowns, and receptions. He did it all last year. I mean, he was money, money, money. Allen Robinson coming to the Rams now. I think that could take some ball away from him. I like Kupp. I don't think he's going to repeat the year he had last year. He's not my number 1. My number 1 is Jamar Chase of the Bengals. I feel he's going to be on a level with nobody else. He had a rookie year last year. He's going to have a better year this year. The Bengals have a great receiving core with Higgins and Boyd. They're going to be back, and his quarterback is healthy. Well, he did get his appendix out today, so he's not that healthy, but he'll be fine. He'll be back in practice in a week. But all serious. My Smart Chase, just because I gotta go against the grain, Tussler. I cannot say like what everybody else is chasing from last year's Cooper Kupp. I want to get Kupp because he had a great year last year. Well, that's last year. We're talking about this year. Jamar Chase is going to have a better year than Cooper Kupp. That's Ross the boss, and that's the chance you got to take if you want to win your league. You're not going to win it just going textbook. You got to go against the grain a little bit, Hustler. That's all I want you to do, a little bit. So.
Well, amongst these, I mean, they're the tier 1 guys for me. There's 3 guys who are in tier 1, and Chase is the lowest of the 3
who's your number 2?
that I have. Number 2 is Justin Jefferson, and it's because Jamar Chase is not going to get the amount of receptions that he needs to compete with both of those guys. He's not going to be a 100 reception guy. He's not going to get 100.
Oh, you're saying some horrible things.
He's not going to get it. He doesn't need it. That's not his game. He's a burner. They got T. Higgins to be that other side as the possession receiver. He's the burner, but that's why he's number 3. He's going to get those deep passes, going to have some 200-yard, 2 touchdown games, but I bet he will get like maybe 1 game where he gets like 10 plus receptions in the game. That's not his game.
Like the game last year, like 10 plus receptions, over 200 yards, and like what, three touchdowns? It's like crazy. It's like a video game. I think Chase is going to have a bigger year this year. 100 receptions, 1,600 yards. Remember, they're playing 17 games compared to 16.
He played 17 games last year.
Oh no, I'm just saying you gotta factor in, like, you know, it's for receivers, it's not that hard to break 1,000. You know what I mean? It's really not. I mean, especially with you play all 17 games and you break 1,000. I mean, you're averaging what, 60 something yards a catch? Is my math right?
How many games did he have 10 plus receptions in last year? There's a quiz question for you.
I would say 10 plus receptions.
Yeah.
2.
1.
Close. He had 1, but he was a rookie. Remember, he was a rookie, and
it's not his game. That's all I'm saying. It's not his game.
He's good. I mean, we'll talk about it a little later about guys who get the balls a lot, but don't get the long ball. Your boy Keenan Allen does not do that. He loves catching the ball, but no long passes for Keenan Allen. So for him to get points, he's got to catch a lot of passes. So give or take there. There you go. My number 2 is your guy, Cooper Kupp. I put him as number 2 just because of last year. And I love the combination with Kupp and Stanford. I think it's a great combination. And like you said, there's 3 or 4 top. I would say there's 4 top tier guys. Who's your number 3?
I already put him up there. Jamar Chase.
So my number 3 is Devonta Adams. I clearly think that he's going to have a good year with his good friend from Fresno State, Derek Carr. I feel we'll see him really, really have a fun, great year. He's going to have a fun time playing in Vegas. My boy Hustler lives in Vegas. I know you'll be at some of the games cheering on Devontae. So, I mean, I think Devontae for me is the number 3 wide receiver for me. I think he's going to have a stellar year, even without Aaron Rodgers. Who's your number 4?
I got Stefan Diggs there. I want to get someone who's attached to really the best, one of the best QBs in the league right now. And he had his regression last year, and now it's about to come back up because they're missing a couple pieces. Their run game is a little bit more solid than it was last year. I don't think Diggs gets double teamed as much as he did this past year.
So I took Diggs out of the top 10. That's what I did. I had to take a stand. I took Diggs out. He burned me last year. I did in a few leagues. Burned me. I mean,
why did he? Wait. Explain how he burned you.
During like December games where you need the guys to have big games because you're in the playoffs. He didn't really step it up during the playoffs situation in fantasy football. I'm not talking about NFL playoffs. I'm about fantasy football playoffs. And it's cold in Buffalo. They don't throw the ball as much as they do in warmer weather places in December. But I'm just saying, if we're
talking about the number 7 wide receiver last year at over 1,200
I know it was
yards.
number 7.
So if you go back 1 year, he had 3 touchdowns in the championship game. So don't listen to Ross the Boss and take him out of your top 10. Do not listen to him.
I had to take a stand somewhere. I'm staying away from Diggs in fantasy. I think he's going a little too high. He's not a guy I'm staying away from, but it's not I have some other guys I like better. My number 4 is a guy named CeeDee Lamb. He plays in Dallas. Prescott is healthy. He hired a trainer for the first time ever in his life during the offseason. He's got in really good shape. CeeDee Lamb, I feel, is going to have a great year. Cooper's not there anymore. He's in Cleveland. I mean, imagine going from the Dallas, who's like, to Cleveland. I mean, it's like night and day. But Cooper, I think CeeDee Lamb is going to have a breakout year. I feel he's on his way up. And I feel he's going to have a really rock and roll year. And if you can grab CeeDee Lamb in the 3rd or 4th round, do it immediately because it's totally worth the risk. What's your thoughts on CeeDee Lamb?
I'm not taking him at his ceiling. He's not even inside my top 10.
I love it.
You know why? Because he's never finished inside the top 10. You're taking Diggs outside the top 10, who keeps finishing inside the top 10 year after year. And I know everyone wants to say CD's going to break out, but they've literally been saying that since his rookie year in the NFL. I'm not buying the hype. I don't care that he's on America's favorite team. It doesn't matter.
Believe the hype.
He's going to finish as a high end or wide receiver too.
CeeDee Lamb, I've been taking him in a lot of leagues to be a little secret. Ross the Boss has been drafting him a lot. That's like the player that
if you got him as your number 5 wide receiver.
I know. I just tell you, I just feel he's going to have an unbelievable year. Him and Schultz in Dallas are going to be really, really good. We'll see what happens. I'm not a Cowboy fan. Please don't put that stamp on me. But I think CeeDee Lamb this year is going to be an exceptional year. Who's your number 5?
I got Devonta Adams at number 5, and but regression is coming. I don't care what anyone says. Regression is coming. It doesn't matter that he's going back with his college quarterback. Like they may have the rapport, but I mean Rodgers is different, just a different beast. Waller, Renfro. They got coordinators who are like a run first like style coordinator. So he's going to regress, but I still got him at number 5.
Okay. Well, I took
way above CeeDee Lamb. I take way above CeeDee Lamb and Diggs way above him.
I took CeeDee Lamb. I'm going against the grain. I'm going against the grain.
That's not going against the grain.
Number 5, Justin Jefferson. I know you like him. I still like him. It's not like
that is insane that you have someone who has only been in the NFL as long as CeeDee Lamb, who's been putting up way more stats than CeeDee Lamb. It is outright disrespectful that you have CeeDee Lamb above Justin
Prescott is healthy, my friend.
That doesn't matter. He was healthy last year.
Healthier right now than he is now. And they got
matter.
hurt. I don't know if you remember this. They had some really bad quarterbacks fill in for him. They had these guys. I don't know
who didn't fall off? Amari Cooper.
I mean, who did that? I forgot the guys. I got to look it up. I forgot the guys who started. It was like these guys just right off the turnip truck. They were like, it was.
That was 2 years ago at this point, though. We're talking redraft. Like
I know. I'm just telling you, it was kind of funny.
And he was a rookie, so yeah, there's baked in excuses for him. You know who has no excuses? Justin Jefferson, because he keeps finishing as a top wide receiver every year he's been in the NFL.
He's my number 5.
That is disrespectful that you have.
I like Justin. Like Kirk Cousins, very underrated as a quarterback. People don't take him seriously in fantasy. And it's funny, last year, like midpoint, I remember he was like the number 2 points quarterback at one time. And he was like up there. And everybody was like saying, can't believe Kirk Cousins is that. Yeah, he's that high. He has 2 great receivers. Well, Randolph's not there anymore.
Justin Jefferson. That's why he's such a good.
He's number 5. Who's your number 6?
I got Keenan Allen at number 6. Let's get it tied to Herbert.
Allen.
The guy who you say needs 100 receptions to put up points.
He needs at least.
Well, guess what he does? He puts up 100 receptions year after year. That's what he does.
I know, but he doesn't go for the bomb. There's no like long threat. These are like very short passes.
This is fantasy. This isn't. You only get points on 50-yard receptions.
He is so.
Do you play in
Overrated.
PPR leagues,
Keenan
Ross
Allen
the
is
Boss?
so. Don't draft Keenan Allen unless you get him in the 10th
Ross
round.
the Boss, do you play in PPR leagues?
Yes, of course I play PPR.
Okay,
leagues.
so then you know Keenan Allen is PPR.
Of course, but I like the guy that has the long ball threat, and they don't throw him the ball.
Well, yeah, that's why you got Jamar Chase at number 1 over everybody.
My
Even
number
the guys
6
who
is
get
somebody.
3 receptions.
My number 6 is somebody that always gets 1,000 yards every season since he's been in the league. Always, he's like money every year. This guy is money, and this guy is Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Texas A&M grad. This guy, I mean, it's funny. You don't really hear much about him, but if you take Mike Evans, you're like guaranteed like 1,200, 1,300 yards, 10, 11 touchdowns. I mean, he does this every year since he was a rookie. So that's why I took him there, just because it's somebody you can rely on. He plays hurt all the time. I mean, last year he was hurt and he still had games. But that's my number 6. Who's your 7? Go.
I got him at number 7, Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. Debo, I took Samuel, Debo. I know, we talked about it earlier about Trey Lance naming the quarterback. That's not going to affect Debo. Debo's kind of a double threat. He does play running back, even though he doesn't want to do it anymore. But he is money. I mean, he had some huge games last year and the year before. He was unbelievable. I have him at 7 just because of that. I just feel the Niners will be good regardless who their quarterback is. I think they'll be a playoff team. But long story short, I feel Debo is going to be the guy that's going to be really getting the yards for them this year coming up. Who's your 8?
I got Tyreek at number 8, and right in front of Debo. And he's gonna be the new Debo over there in Miami. I mean, Josh McDaniels, we know how he likes to use Debo. Tyreek's gonna be that guy. It's gonna be a whole lot of yak and getting the ball into his hand quick and just letting him outrun everybody.
It's funny. I have Tyreek as 8 too. I feel people are kind of overlooking him because he traded teams. He doesn't have Pat Mahomes. And remember, Waddle is a guy you got to worry about too. So you can't like double team Hill all the time. You got to worry about Waddle. So all that being said, Tyreek's going to have a lot of single coverage. I think you're right. I think Tyreek's going to have a breakout year. I think I saw him interviewed this week on ESPN. He was wearing shades. You think our shades are like bad? I mean, he had shades like the reflector shades, with the mirrors. He wore that the whole time during the interview. So it was just like the oddest interview, but he's ready to rock. I mean, he was shocked he was traded. He's not happy. He has something to prove, and I think he's, like you said, I think he's going to be a top 10 receiver for sure this year. Who's your number 9?
I got Debo at number 9. Definitely deserves to be inside the top 10. If they say that they're going to scale back, using him as a runner or whatever. It might be, but as long as he stays healthy, I mean, dude's got too much skills not to be inside the top 10.
So I'm a homer. I know you're going to laugh at me. I took T. Higgins. I feel T's going to have 10, 12 touchdowns. He's the guy that's going to get the short passes like the Keenan Allens. He's the guy that's going to get probably more receptions than Chase.
See, this is where you messed up because I have T. Higgins at number 10 because I know Jamar Chase isn't going to finish as number 1. See, so you taking T. Higgins at number 10.
Words. Wow.
How can you have the number 1 wide receiver and the number 10 wide receiver on the same team? Not going to happen. T. Higgins is the value of those two, and he is going to have more receptions. He probably is going to have more targets. They may end up somewhere close in touchdowns because Chase is a big touchdown guy, but it's crazy that you have T. Higgins there. Yeah, it is you being a homer.
I love T. Higgins too. I mean, trust me, I wouldn't be angry if T. Higgins had a better year than Chase. Trust me, if T. Higgins has a better year than Chase, the Bengals are going to have a great year. It's going to be Joe Burrow is going to make a lot of records if this happens.
And I forgot you're on the Bengals. That's why
I'm on the Bengals. So that's why I said I'm doing a little homer thing here. But T. Higgins, huge target. This guy doesn't really get the press because of Chase. I mean, people forget about him. And I also like Boyd. I mean, Boyd was their number 1 receiver 3 years ago. He's their number 1 receiver. And people forgot about him. And people written him off. Oh, Boyd is like the 3. He barely gets drafted. I draft him in the 10th, 11th round. He's a great guy. If one of these guys get hurt and Boyd has to play every down, huge year. That's not really a huge downgrade either. I love Boyd. So if you're drafting and he's available like in the 10th, 11th round, take him up. That's Boyd. But who's your number 10?
T. Higgins.
Higgins your 10.
Yeah, because I don't have Jamar Chase finishing as number 1. That's what I'm saying. It's your homer pick.
I love Jamar Chase
think...
is my number 1. My number 10, and that's why I don't have Keenan Allen is in my top 10, is Mr. Mike Williams of the LA Chargers.
That makes no sense.
I think this is my prediction. I think he's going to have a huge year. He's going to have over 1,000 yards. He's going to have 12 to 14 touchdowns. He's their deep threat. Herbert's going to have a huge year.
You're just one of those chicks who digs the long ball. That's what it is.
I have Aaron Judge along my baseball league, so yes, you're 100% right. But I think Mike Williams could be a good steal in the draft this year.
He's not a steal. He's going super high. He's not a steal. He's got to live up. He's got to live up to this production now because he's being drafted as like a top 20 wide receiver.
I'm just curious.
I mean, I see him being drafted in the 5th and the 6th all the time in Superflex.
Yeah, but your Superflex, as we both know, you got
so bump that up for single QB.
I know. I mean, the Superflex, it's like you got to take quarterbacks first and second usually.
That's what I mean. He's going to be like a 4th rounder, like 4th round.
Mike Williams, I think it's my prediction. He'll have a better. We'll have a bet dinner. I say Williams has a better year than Keenan Allen. We'll make that bet right now. I'll take Williams.
The only way that happens is if Keenan Allen gets hurt, and I'm not betting on either one of those guys to stay.
Well, it's part of the game. It's just that's why when you go to Vegas right now and you're doing those over-unders on yards and touchdowns for players, you usually take the under just because people get hurt and because of COVID. You take the unders because players don't play 17 games anymore. Yeah. Just a little hint for Ross the Boss. You don't take the overs on most bets. Trust me, you'll win a lot if you take the unders. Coming from me, Ross the Boss. Well, that's our top 10. I want to hear your sleeper picks. I have a lot of sleeper picks for some reason. I just had all these guys that I was like drafting like late that I'm saying, oh, this guy's I can't believe this guy went in the 12th round. Who are some of your sleeper wide receiver picks this year, Hustler? I want to hear them. I want to see if they're close to my great picks. Go.
Well, we'll get real deep. I mean, actually, we'll go in levels. So I'll start with Alan Lazard, guy who's going in close to double-digit rounds, and I don't know why he's going so far down when he's like him and Randall Cobb are the only familiar faces in Green Bay, and Randall Cobb's, like you said, not even being drafted, in these. So
you got Watson too. I mean,
he's already.
I agree with you. I think Lazard. If Lazard if Lazard can get 2/3 of what Devonta Adams did last year, that's great. I mean, 2/3 of his stats, it's unbelievable. So somebody has to catch the ball, and Lazard's a great pick. Keep going.
I also got Miko Hardman. Everyone thinks that it's going to be Sky Moore, and until Justin Rostock was out for the season, I think it's going to be him. And Miko Hardman, I think it's going to be like him and Juju as like the 1A, 1B. So even though both of those guys in there because they're going like really, really late. And I don't know how one of the best offenses in the league won't produce someone besides a tight end, that'll be like a wide receiver 2, worthy start.
Okay, so you brought it up. I'll finish this. So Kansas City, Andy Reid, he never puts a lot of emphasis on rookies, just so you know. The last one in 2016, Tyreek Hill was the last one that got some play as a rookie. That was it. Everybody else kind of rides the bench. There's no Pringle. He's gone. Robinson.
And Tyreek wasn't even like a top 10 guy or like whatever everyone else thinks Sky Moore is going to be.
So Sky Moore's still not in the equation. Pringle's gone. He's on a different team. Robinson's gone. He's on a different team. Schuster, for me, he's going to be probably the number 1 receiver. That's coming. I really feel that. I feel Schuster's going to have a good year. I feel he'll be a great last like 2 or 3 rounds left in your draft. You pick Schuster. That's a great pick. I feel he's going to be, and I feel Hardman, like you said, it's very close. Hardman's going to have a good year too. When they drafted Hardman, they were thinking a replacement for Tyreek Hill. That's why they drafted the guy.
Yeah.
And I feel he could have a good year too. But Smith Schuster, I feel he's going to be the number 1 receiver in Kansas City. And I don't think Sky Moore is going to be get much playing time, just because. And when people say, oh, Kelsey's going to get more production, you can't get more production out of your tight end. this guy gets 140 receptions, and I mean, this guy
he didn't get 140 last.
I'm just throwing a number out there. But I mean, the guy can't play more than he did the past 5 years. I mean, you can't put more emphasis on the guy. I mean, there's no way. I mean,
he is going to go up. He had 92 receptions last year, 1,125 yards and 9 touchdowns. Every one of those 3 categories are going to improve next year. Or this year.
If he stays healthy, I agree, and I'm not disagreeing with you. But again, people are saying his production is going to be a lot higher. It's not going to be able to be 10%, let's say. But I think Schuster, like you said, is going to be the man wide receiver wise in Kansas City. So if you're drafting and Schuster's available late in your draft, it's a good pickup. Who else on your sleeper list?
Devonta Parker, someone who's all the way down. I mean, he's been left for dead, in Miami like the last couple years and kind of been unhealthy, but they don't really have too many heads over there in New England that I want as far as like the wide receivers go. So I'll take a late shot on a Devonta Parker to see if he can get a resurgence.
Yeah, I mean, like Myers didn't score a touchdown till like mid-season. Remember that? It was like he was getting all these yards but no touchdowns for game after. It was like a huge streak. It was like
he only has 1 touchdown for his entire career.
So I'm not a big Mac Jones guy. I feel he's below average as for a fantasy quarterback. I said it. There you go. I know they win in New England. I get it. I feel. Remember that game when New England threw 5 passes because it was so cold? They threw 5 passes the whole game.
3 passes.
3. Who else do you got?
I got AJ Green. Everyone thinks that it's going to be Marquise Brown and all that. And guess what?
Marquise Brown is on the pup list. They just announced it today. Yeah.
Yep. So now everyone is going to be like, oh, yeah, maybe AJ Green. I've been pounding the AJ Green drum for about 2 or 3 weeks because ever since Hopkins has been announced out, he's just going to be one of those guys right off the bat who's going to be in the mix.
Now, listen, I loved AJ Green in Cincinnati. Trust me. I think he's on the downhill. He dropped an easy catch last season. I remember this, but they could have won the game and he dropped the ball. But I hope you're right. I hope he has a good comeback here. I like AJ Green. I just think he's on the decline. But as you said, somebody has to catch the ball in Arizona. Why not AJ Green?
Yeah, and for being on the decline, he had 850 yards and 3 touchdowns last year.
I'm rooting for him. Trust me. I'm not just. I hope he has a great year. I just don't have any faith, but we'll see. We'll talk during the season. Don't worry. We'll be on the air during the season. We can talk about AJ Green. Who else do you got?
I got Van Jefferson. I mean, assuming that they don't get OBJ back, I don't even think people realize that he had an 800-yard, 6-touchdown year last year, and someone who's pretty much free in your drafts. You can just get him in like your last round.
You don't have to draft him. You could, after the draft's over, you could pick him up on waiver wire. I mean, if you don't want to draft him, Van Jefferson, I'm worried about playing time, but long story short, I feel he'll get more this year. He proved to me last year he should be in the league. He made some great catches, had some great games. He's just not consistent enough for me to draft. There's games where he doesn't even touch the ball. But again, this could be a better year just because OBJ is not there. Who else do you have?
I mean, I can keep going farther down, but the farther down we go is like guys who aren't going to be drafted in most leagues.
Okay, so let me give you some of my sleeper picks, guys that I feel are being drafted kind of low that should be a little higher. The one that always comes to mind, just because he plays in like the shittiest market in the NFL, he plays in Houston, is Brandon Cooks. Every year, Hustler, 1,000 yards, touchdowns. He catches the ball a lot. He gets no respect. But Brandon Cooks proved he's been on other teams.
I guess I wasn't even thinking about a guy like him as a sleeper.
Well, I'm just saying, like, his ADP is so low compared to his stats, and people forget about him. And I would start him in a flex. I mean, I would draft him and start him. I mean, I think he's that good. And he's the key target. I mean, he every year over 1,000 yards. Brandon Cooks. I also like Rashard Bateman. Not getting any press at all. No one's talking about him, but he's the number one guy right now in Baltimore, I assume.
I guess I wasn't even thinking of guys like these as sleepers.
That's okay.
Because these are guys who are going in like the 7th, 8th round.
Well, I mean, that's okay. But what's your take on Rashard Bateman this year? Do you think he's
Well, both of these guys are wide receiver 2s, like that you're mentioning to me. So I mean, they're not sleepers. They're like top 20 guys to me.
They're being drafted. Their ADP is not that high compared to where they should be. That's my opinion. Another guy that's a sleeper is Kenny Golladay of the Giants. Somebody has to catch the ball for Daniel Jones. Why not Golladay? I like this guy a lot. He got hurt last year. He's back. He's one of my.
That's what everyone said last year. He got hurt last year, and now he's back. Same thing. I'm not okay. Kenny Golladay. I'm so nervous about
Denver Bronco. Usually he's drafted in the last round. Tim Patrick, I feel, could be a great sleeper. I'm not really high on Sutton at all. I know you like him. I'm not a huge Sutton guy. I think Tim Patrick can steal a lot of passes away. I think Russell Wilson and him will have a great rapport. But Tim Patrick to me is somebody, if you draft him late and just stash him away, see what happens. I don't think it's a bad investment. What's your thoughts on Tim?
I mean, Tim, you're just really hoping that someone gets injured, in front of him, because like he has no value until people get injured in front of him. He's going to be the 4th guy on the depth chart, if 4th wide receiver on the depth chart to start the season. So I mean, if guys get injured, but I don't think anyone's going to hold him long enough, to where it's worth.
Yeah, again,
I'll just pick him up on waivers.
These are sleepers, exactly. But if you're in a deep league and you got to draft some guys, if you have a big bench or it's a lot of wide receiver starts or whatever your league is, as you know, we play in some crazy leagues. I like Tim Patrick. I like where he's being drafted, but he's not. But I feel that he could have a good year. It's worth the investment. We talked about this earlier. Is Russell Gage now? Do you think he's affected now because of Julio Jones?
It's more Chris Godwin than Julio Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason anybody liked Russell Gage is because Chris Godwin was more than likely going to start the year on the pup. And if he doesn't, that means Russell Gage is now the number 3, potentially the number 4, Reed. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah. I mean, Russell Gage, I feel, is a good position. But like I said, him and Scotty Miller are both in the same position. It's like, who knows how much they're going to hit the field. Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, I like Russell, how he came from Atlanta and went to Tampa, but long story short, if somebody gets hurt, I love him. If not, don't waste your time. Somebody nobody's talking about him. Nobody is talking about Jarvis Landry in New Orleans being that first, 3rd and 8 receiver, catching 8-yard, 10-yard passes. That's what he does best. And no one's talking about him at all just because I don't know why. I mean, he had great seasons in Cleveland. Now
I want to hear why. For someone who only likes these long ball receivers, tell me why you like Jarvis Landry.
Yes, Jarvis Landry is going to get. First of all, he's going to get about 8 or 10 passes a game in New Orleans scheme of things.
Wow, Jameis Winston only was throwing it like 18 times a game last year.
Winston is good. Winston is going to be a change guy this year, especially with their running back out. They don't have a running game. I mean, the running game's gone for a few games, and
not officially. If you heard the new news, I mean, this might get pushed off to where Alvin Kamara doesn't even.
I heard that.
See any punishment until 2023.
It's amazing to me. It's like, oh, we'll investigate it after the season. Oh, it means he's playing the whole season.
It's the court cases, and he's got a lawyer.
I just feel Landry's a guy. Again, this is like deep leagues type situations.
I know, but you hate Keenan Allen.
I don't hate him. I just think he's being drafted a little too high. I'd rather have Mike Williams. That's me. I like Williams better than Allen. I had Allen in leagues, and he's been he was in like top 10.
Mike Williams has only been healthy for 1 season in his entire.
Yeah, but Williams has better hair. He's cooler. He has a better look.
I met Keenan Allen, and he's an asshole in real life. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
But all being said, Jarvis Landry, I don't know. I just threw it out there because it's a change of scenery, and he's playing indoors in that stupid turf, and I don't know. I mean, and what's happening with Michael Thomas and what's his situation?
He's on the pup. That's all we know. It's not looking good.
What do you mean it's not? So is he playing this year? He's going to hit the field? Is he doing anything?
I have no idea. I'm not fucking with Mike Thomas at all. Like, he's on the pup.
You're my life support when it comes to players' news. Well, you're not.
Well, they haven't. all camp is starting this week, and he's starting camp on the pup. That's all we know.
Oh, did you see today how Aaron Rodgers showed up to camp like Nick Cage and Con Air? I loved it. I loved that, how he got out. I mean, he had somebody filming him get out of the truck and everything. He was all playing.
He better have the accent like Nick Cage, or else he's losing cool points.
But he is a baller. I like Aaron Rodgers. I think he has fun with it.
Antonio hates Keenan Allen. Antonio's with you on the hating Keenan Allen. He said, "Don't sit me." Luckily, I didn't have him that year, but I told
Mike Williams, baby. So those are my sleepers. I'm sure he missed a few people. Anybody watching that's want to type and tell me their sleepers, that'd be great. There's so many, a plethora of receivers this year that are going to have good seasons. It's just trying to figure out who's going to be the big breakout. That's the hard part. That's where I come in, and you come in. But let's talk about the player again, receivers that are drafted a little too high in your standard, that you want to take that high, that should be a little lower, let's say. So
CeeDee Lamb.
So CeeDee Lamb is your first pick. You would not take CeeDee Lamb in the top 20.
In the top 20 overall picks, hell no way. The only time I've taken CeeDee Lamb is when he's dropped to the 4th round. Other than that, I'm not taking him at his ceiling. I've never seen it from him before.
Okay, we'll see what CeeDee Lamb does. He's my big breakout guy this year. I have him in a lot of leagues. We'll see what happens. Who else are you kind of staying away from?
Kenny Golladay. It's another guy that you mentioned. Oh man,
he's drafted in the 11th round. I mean,
I'm still staying away. That's way too high for
Golladay. He's my boy. I love Golladay. I think he's going to have a great year. No, has anybody drafted Daniel Jones this year in fantasy football? That's my question to you.
Yep. Well, I play in Superflex leagues. That's what you got to remember. Yeah, these single QB leagues. I mean, they're becoming a way of the past. There's no reason to play in them anymore. For anyone who says it's the closest thing to real football, no, it's not, because you have 32 teams in the NFL. So
we'll talk about that if we have time. We'll talk about when you set up a league, the do's and don'ts, what you should have as your settings. And I agree with you. I'm enjoying playing Superflex leagues a lot more than playing single quarterbacks. We'll talk about that. Who else do you have in your little too high to be drafted list? I'll stay away this year.
Man, really? It's funny because like all these guys that you have, Mike Williams is on one of those.
That's good.
And his ADP just keeps creeping up and up and up. And I mean, he's one big catch away from like breaking his hip. Like all he knows how to do is jump 10 feet in the air and come down really, really hard on his body. And like, that's the thing that it scares me. If I ever roster Mike Williams, when he goes up for a pass and he comes down as hard as he does, and there's no grace to his fall. It is all hip, all back, whatever it is. He's like trying to hurt himself when he falls. So that's really why I'm avoiding him.
God, the Chargers offense this year with
AJ?
Eckler and Allen and Williams, they're going to be a high potent offense, and their defense improved 1,000%. Their defense, they brought in this interception. Where they get this guy? They got this guy that's
Casey Jackson.
Yeah,
JC Jackson.
Yeah, they got some great defensive additions, and with Bosa there too. It's going to be a great team. I mean, they could be one of those teams that can make the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about that a little later in the season.
And Antonio said, you got to try IDP, Ross the Boss. It's game changing. That's for sure.
I like IDP too. So a guy that I'm staying away from, just because I don't even know who the quarterback in Seattle is. And this guy's a beast. He's built like me. I mean, him and I have the same body type, basically, is DK Metcalf. And I just feel I'm just staying away. I'm staying away from him and Lockett at the same time.
Yeah.
Lockett was, I feel Lockett was Wilson's favorite receiver last year. He kind of blew off DK a lot, even though he was a great target. But I think Lockett and DK are going to have mediocre seasons just because of Wilson not being there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely not guys I'm trying to jump after. The only place that I got DK was a 7th round of a best ball draft where he just kept falling and falling. I just took a shot. But outside of that, if I'm going to go for either one of them, I guess I'll go for Lockett, because you can at least get him in the double-digit rounds as a backup. DK, you're having to draft him as a starter. So, I'm just avoiding both. We don't want any part of Drew Lock.
I don't think so either. I mean, I think they're going to get Garofalo. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think he'll be a Seahawk?
The only way he becomes a Seahawk is if the 49ers cut him and then they pick him up. Other than that, no way. I mean, maybe the Browns. They're really the only ones who have the cap space to be able to pick him up. So I have no idea, but it's really weird because they're not going to do an inner division like trade. It's just not going to happen.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. Just the rumors that are flying all over the place in Seattle. But I don't know. I don't see how he goes there. I have no idea how he becomes a Seahawk. No idea. I don't think the Niners would ever do that. I feel he'll go someplace else. I mean, he's definitely going somewhere. I mean, they announced it. I mean, he announced it too, that he won't be a Niner this year. And which
still got to find a trade partner. That's what it is.
So the other guy is to stay away from. We talked about it a million times this show. Is Keenan Allen. I'm not going to draft him in any leagues this year. I'm staying away. I just feel he just doesn't catch the ball for touchdowns enough, and there's not enough long ball production for me for Keenan Allen. Where he goes in the draft. I mean, he's a third round, late second round guy, right? I mean, where does he go? What's his ADP? It's like it's in the 40s or 30s, right?
I mean, he's being drafted around like wide receiver, like 14 to 17.
Oh, is he 14 or 17? I thought he was a little higher, but my guy's Mike Williams. We'll see what happens. But I had, we gave you guys a lot of great insight on receivers this year, and you got to take a chance. You just can't go look at your magazine and do whatever the magazine says. If you have a feeling about some receiver like Diggs or Chase or whoever it is, go for it. You don't have to listen to me or Tussler. You can have your own little thoughts. That's great. But we're giving you some great insight, and we're just telling you right now that we're usually not wrong. So if you listen to us, you're going to win your league. Talking about winning a league. So you and I talked about it off air. And let's say I'm starting a league, brand new league. And let's say it's a dynasty league. It could be any type of league. But what are your parameters when you start a league? Like what things do you do that most people don't?
Well, it's got to be super flex. I know a lot of people are kind of migrating towards.
So tell people what super flex is real quick.
Super flex is where you have to start one QB and you have a super flex spot, which you can play a QB, a running back, a wide receiver, a tight end. So really any spot, including a QB. So it's pretty much a 2 QB league because everyone is going to try to start 2 QBs in those spots. If you only have 10 or 12 teams, I mean, you're only starting 20 to 24 QBs, and there's still going to be some that are on the waiver wire. It's the way to go. It may add a little wrinkle to the strategy, but that's the point. Single QB are getting a little bit too easy with the quarterback strategy. It's like it almost doesn't matter. And so I'm off the single QB train. I really like tight end premium now, and taking away the tight end spot and just turning it into a flex position where you can play running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end. And then you make the tight end score a little bit more per reception. Then it makes those real shitty tight ends that no one wants to start anyways. Kind of makes them a tiny bit relevant, compared to some of these maybe wide receiver 3s or wide receiver 4s, but just opens up the strategy. And it's got to be IDP, individual defensive players, instead of doing a team defense, because no one ever does team offense or anything like that. So why would we do it with team defense when we got guys like TJ Watt, Roquan Smith, Devin White? I mean, some of the best athletes in the NFL, offense or defense. Like, we're not going to exclude those guys.
I mean, I played in leagues with individual stuff. I love that stuff. When you do when you do the defensive players individual wise, do you do like defensive line, defensive end, linebacker, safety? I mean, how do you clarify it in your league when you do that kind of stuff?
So I do it on Sleeper, and I do so D-line, and so that could be a defensive tackle or a defensive end, and then you got your linebackers. That could be an inside or an outside linebacker, and then you got the DBs. Those can be safeties or corners. Okay. So it's really only 3 like positions you're trying to fill, and so then it's just how many positions do you put, or what number of those positions do you put in? I usually put 2 of each, and then we add like 1 to 3 flexes. So somewhere between 6 and like 9 or 10 starters.
And when you do defensive players, where do they go in your draft? Like when do people draft defensive players?
So the top guys, I mean, maybe you'll get them going off in the 5th and the 6th rounds.
Okay.
But normally, I mean, the way it's going to go a lot of times is, I mean, just like defense and kickers in real leagues or in offense only leagues, or never mind, just regular conventional fantasy football leagues with kickers and defenses. There we go. You fill up your offense and then you start moving to the defense. So that's how a lot of people do it. They'll just fill up their offense and then they'll start filling up their defensive starters after that.
And the settings for the defensive players, I always do like a point for a tackle, points for interceptions. Of course, they score a touchdown at 6 points. How do you do your points when it comes to defensive players?
I do IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. It's the IDP scoring format that Sleeper just adopted last year as their IDP default scoring. So it's like assisted tackles are 1, QB hits are 1, solo tackles are 2, tackle for loss is 2, forced fumbles 3.
Sacks is 2 or 5.
No, sacks are 6 in this one. Sacks are 6, touchdowns are 6, interceptions are 6. So these big play, game-changing plays are worth as much as a touchdown. But when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, I mean, most guys on the defensive side, I mean, you're getting single-digit sacks, you're getting single-digit interceptions. There's only a few who really crack double digits in either of those categories. So just like in the NFL, I mean, maybe you get like 10 or 20 guys, cracking double digit, touchdowns. Kind of the same thing in defense. You only get maybe 10, 12 guys cracking double digit sacks and maybe one guy, if that, cracking double digit interceptions.
No, I mean, again, I love mixing it up. I got older guys in my league and they were like, well, I want to get rid of the kickers. I don't want kickers anymore. It's stupid. Why are we having kickers? Why do we care about kickers? And people get really angry with me. I mean, they really I want kickers. I'm used to kickers. Well, what are your thoughts of having kickers as part of your fantasy?
I'm really not into kickers. I mean, that'll be one that I'll just eliminate because I feel like the scoring system is flawed with it. And in a lot of these leagues, I mean, the kicker scores like 10+% of the points, if it's just like default scoring all around. So I really I cannot get behind that at all. I think that the kickers should not score 3 points per field goal. I don't think they should score 5 points for a 50-yard field goal. It doesn't make sense compared to everything else.
I'm on the same page. I don't want kickers anymore. I just think it defaults the whole game. I mean, all of a sudden you're caring about a 45-yard field goal to win or break your game that week. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Another thing that people do, and I stopped. I put a kibosh on this in my leagues, that when the quarterback runs for yards, it counts just like running for a running back. People like to discount yardage for a quarterback for some reason. They make it less desirable. You know what I mean? So basically, I feel that for some reason that's what they do.
I mean, it should be when they're running, it should count the same as the running back. I mean, I go even farther with the passing yards. I think 1 point for every 25 yards is kind of stupid. I mean, I put it at 15 because the quarterbacks really get no love in fantasy football, and it's just crazy. It's crazy to me.
I agree. I mean, I like rewarding, especially in super flex leagues. You should be rewarded for more points, and you should draft your quarterback in the first round. In these single quarterback leagues, people draft quarterbacks in the 5th or 6th round. That's when Mahomes and Allen go.
If I'm in a single QB league, I'm not drafting a QB before round 9 or 10, and you'll still get Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, like your pick of any of those guys.
Listen, I agree. That's why we do super flex. That's why we don't care about the tight end that much anymore. And that's why we're eliminating the kicker. And these are all great hints to start your league. You want to start your league with these little hints we gave you. You want to get away from the traditional stuff. It's great for the older guys, but Hustler and I are not older guys. We like to stay with the young guys. So I suggest when you start a league, listen to us. We know what we're doing. You'll have a lot more fun. Superflex throws such a wrench in everything. It's the best. And yeah. I enjoy chaos. Do you like chaos in your league? When with quarterbacks and bye weeks and you got to have a guy on your bench. I mean, it's chaos.
You're talking to a guy who probably hosts about 20 to 30 non-conventional leagues every single year. I try to get as far away as from these default style leagues as possible.
You're talking to the preacher. I mean, you'll see some of the people come on and they're all talking about kickers and defensive teams. I try to tell them, stay away. Don't worry about your if you are in a league with a kicker, draft him in the 12th round. Draft him last. Don't waste a good pick on the kicker, on Tucker or Lutz or some of the big time legs. If I with the kickers in my leagues, if I'm still in those leagues, I kind of like I move them around like all the time. I mean, I love the kicker in Miami, Sanders. I think he's one of the best kickers in the league, and he never gets drafted. He's great. Yeah. He led the league in points 2 years ago. So next week, Hustler, we're going to be on at 3:00, hour earlier. I got things to do. I can't hang out with you past 4:00 anymore. And we're also going to do tight ends. I know we're getting rid of that. We just talked about that. We'll talk about tight ends, and we'll talk about, I don't want to talk about kickers. Let's talk about defense, but defensive players that we really like this season that we think you should take in your league that we just discussed. So we'll talk about defensive individual players. We'll give our top 10 on that, and then we'll give our top 10 tight ends, even though we know after 5 or 6, we're not going to even be drafting those guys because we're getting rid of the tight ends in our leagues. But that's what we'll do next week, and we'll talk about NFL news. There'll be a lot of stuff going on. My phone does not stop with people getting on the pup list. It hasn't stopped all day. Yeah. It's going to be worse next week, and I can't wait to talk to you about all that show on HBO that I enjoy with the Colts. Yeah. So I can't wait to, hopefully you have to watch it now because we're going to discuss it.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to talk about that too. But I'm Ross the Boss. I love talking fantasy football with you. And Hustler, say goodbye to everybody.
Peace out, everybody. We'll see you next week.